Morning, everybody. We are the Gays for Trump here in Colorado. Again, stressing that we are not representing the entire gay community, just our thoughts, beliefs, and opinions on Donald Trump.
Right. I think that there's a lot of things that have been happening over pretty much every election. I think that it's a very consistent process that the Democrats use. They feed into emotion and they feed into minority groups. Every single time, they run, they appeal to the minority groups, and in all honesty, I don't see any minority group getting any better. I think it's important, especially for the African American community, to realize that. You guys have to realize what has happened, all the promises made to you, and still nothing has happened, and yet they're still making promises to you, and you fall right into it every single time.
We had a conversation with somebody on Twitter earlier that said that Trump is very divisive and he's dividing the party and he's a liar. And so I called out this individual and I said, give me one reason why Trump is divisive or why you won't vote for him or why he's a liar. And I simply got the reply that I don't have to explain myself to you. And so I sent back a message saying that, you took 5 minutes to Google your backup and you had nothing to back yourself up with, so you just resorted to, I don't need to explain myself. And it's saddening that people are not opening their eyes. On Twitter today, Black Votes Matter was trending. So I simply put out a tweet saying Black Votes Matter, look what Obama has done for the African American community. And I named off a few facts about how he has not helped them in any way. And everybody started turning it around into, just because he's black doesn't mean that he needs to solely help the black. If you were to say that that's racist. And that's completely not the point we were going for. It was that when he was elected, he said that he is going to be the best president for African Americans that this world has ever seen. Right. And it's not happening. 100% fact, it is not happening. And we have numbers from the Census Bureau to back that up.
Right, absolutely. And before we get into those numbers, I also want to reiterate, this is not about race. This is not about which race is more dependent on the government. That is not why we're trying to say these things. The only reason why we're bringing up these facts is so that people can understand the promises that were made to you were not met. Okay? So it's not about race. It's not about who's more dependent on the government. I think we should all agree that we should strive to be less dependent on the government. But here we go. With African Americans under President Obama's rule, and I call it a rule because it is tyranny. It's not necessarily a democracy.
I would agree.
Under President Obama's rule, labor force participation down 2.4%, teen unemployment down 34%, poverty up 1.6%, median income up 1.5%, and food stamps up 58.2%. And I'm sorry, median income was down 1.5%.
Right, and I'm sorry, I mixed up my arrows. Teen unemployment is up 34%. So the 34% more black teens are unemployed.
Right, and so let me just redo that because I feel like our notes were a little off. But labor force participation down 2.4%, teen unemployment up 34%, poverty up 1.6%, median income down 1.5%, food stamps up 58.2%. It went from 7.3 million to 11.7 million under Obama's rule. And home ownership is down 9.1%. Now, with those facts in mind, and keep in mind, this is just African Americans under President Obama's rule. With these facts in mind, everybody's going to, jobs are getting better, the unemployment rate is down, I don't understand why you're saying this. No, it's not. Part-time jobs might be up, but if jobs were so rampant in this country, and if we're succeeding on jobs, why are more people on more people on food stamps than ever in history? Why are more people on welfare programs than ever in history? Why is home ownership down? I mean, these are just common sense questions, right? I mean, you got to look at the evidence and understand, wow, this 4.9 unemployment number, that has to be wrong. I also want to explain The unemployment number, even MSNBC, a huge liberal network, agrees that it's higher than 4.9%. Bernie Sanders, right, a huge Democratic candidate, or was, agrees that the true unemployment rate is much higher than 4.9%. We need to understand these facts, and we need to understand that we need to question what the media is force-feeding us to understand.
Yeah, it's baffling how people can have it both ways, that we're having the best economy that we're having in a long time, but yet there's a record number of people on food stamps and welfare. I mean, it doesn't add up. And they don't take into effect the people that have just given up looking for jobs. They just assume that they found a job, so they take them out of the equation altogether, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Right. It's not about race being more dependent on the government. I'm going to stress that again. What this is about is the promises that were made to minority groups and that still have not been fulfilled. And they're doing it again. Look at Black Lives Matter, for example. Black Lives Matter will not exist after November of 2016. Mark my words. It is an organization funded by a rich white guy named George Soros to take out another rich white guy from running for president using a minority group. This should be clearly evident to all of us. We should understand that the minority group of Black Lives Matter, whatever purpose they stand for, is irrelevant. The point is, you are being used by the Democrats again.
Exactly. And one thing I've noticed, looking at a lot of different tweets that we see come through, with what just recently happened in Milwaukee, there have been people that have been on the fence of which party that they're going to vote for, and I think they're realizing that with all of the damage and destruction that the liberals caused during the Trump rallies, burning of the flag, West Hollywood, the tolerant left punched a gay Trump supporter. I mean, that's not tolerant to me. And I think, and then with the whole Milwaukee thing happening, I think people are understanding what really is going on here and how the liberals really act. And under Democrat control, nothing is getting better. Nothing is changing. I'd like to say that poor people have been voting for Democrats for 50 years and they're still poor. I mean, look at Chicago, look at Detroit, look at, I mean, just the slum neighborhoods. Nothing's happening. They rely on the government, and the government wants them to rely on them so that they can continue to control them. It's a sick cycle that they fall into. But I think a lot of people are finally opening their eyes and realizing what's really going on. And I think that, and this is just my opinion, so let's make that clear, I think a lot of African Americans see what the Black Lives Matter people are doing and the bad name that they're giving everybody. So I think they're just kind of stepping back and saying, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this, whether I keep my mouth shut, whether I openly speak about it, but I think I'm definitely going to be voting for Donald Trump this year.
With the Black Lives Matter, I understand that they're fighting for something, and I understand that they're fighting, in my opinion, for, to expose police brutality. But what everybody has to understand, and these are facts, is more people are shot by police officers, more white people, are shot by police officers than any other race. And yes, per capita, you can look at that, but I mean, it's highly disputed, but you can look at different things. And I don't think, this movement of Black Lives Matter is identifying a reasonable solution to their problem. I see it as anti-authority, and I see it as destructive. So whatever you're fighting for, we can agree to disagree, we can agree on some things, we cannot agree on others, it doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to say is it's a narrative of a destructive force that the Democrats are using, again. And
Exactly.
I just really want everybody to open their eyes to that. So, and I also want to note that if you're looking at police brutality, and you're standing against police brutality, and that's why you're in Black Lives Matter, understand that where this is happening, okay? These shootings, quote unquote, happen in areas that are Democrat controlled. They are stricken with poverty. They are coming from people who are raised to be anti-authority. They are raised to hate police officers. They are raised to believe that the world is out to get them. And these are just perpetual things that happen. Of course, there's going to be issues like this coming up. And I just want people to understand, let's put on a logical head. We can agree to disagree on some things. We can completely agree on some things, whatever it may be. But one thing we can all agree on, if we look at the facts, is Democrats are using minority groups again.
They always do, and they always will. They are the divisive group that separates them into different categories, and lets them know that, you know, you're different and I need to treat you specially, and each group gets their own special treatment, whereas Trump is simply saying we are all Americans and we need to put America first and we need to come together as a whole. And I honestly believe that. And then our other topic that we want to bring up is the polls. A lot of people are freaking out about the polls, saying Hillary Clinton is in the lead, Donald Trump is way behind, oh my god, Donald Trump's losing in Georgia, which he's not. He's ahead by 4 points, which I understand it's a very red state, and that could be concerning to people because to have it that close raises questions. But every morning I Google Trump poll and Trump news. Those are the two things I Google. I read all the headlines, I read all the articles, and today's article headline was that Hillary Clinton is defeating Trump by 30 points. So I decided to open it up and see what they were talking about. It's in New York. Now, mind you, New York is a very, very liberal state. Yes, I understand Trump thinks that he has a shot in New York, and honestly, I think he does have a shot as well. But for him to be up that high in New York doesn't surprise me, or for her to be up that high in New York doesn't surprise me. Same thing with California. I mean, two very liberal states. You're rarely going to find polling that's going to say the opposite. But I think two polls that I actually want to touch on are the NBC online poll that has Trump 67% to 13%, or I'm sorry, maybe that's the poll that a group of college students did, where they polled 1,000 people from each of the 50 states. They did 33% Democrats, 33% Republicans, and 34% liberals. And I think that's the best way to truly find out what kind of outcome you're going to get. And Trump was winning by the 67 to 13 or something like that, but the NBC and the poll done by the college kids match up pretty accurately.
I also want to say Trump was leading in the polls on an average 2 weeks ago. You know, I mean, it's not something that Hillary Clinton has this set in stone. And I also want to point out, we know that the media is liberal leaning. We know that it's actually very liberal leaning. And why are we going to take their network polls to heart? You know, clearly there's other things going on here. The polls that I like to see are the genuine ones, the ones that are out in the field, the ones that are actually interacting with people, and even online polls I enjoy. And Trump is winning the majority of those. I think that we can all agree that if we just look around in our day-to-day lives, we don't see very many Hillary Clinton supporters. We see Donald Trump haters. We see Donald Trump supporters. But we do not see a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters. And I just want to say, as far as the polls go, just give it time, let it ride. I'm sure that the media is trying to make it look good for her right now. She's under a lot of stress with the WikiLeaks. She's under a lot of stress with everything that's going on, and the media is probably trying to prop her up to get through this tough time. So just let it ride. Don't worry about the polls. We're not at all. And we know how loyal Trump supporters are, and no news headline is going to sway that.
And just to let people know that what the polls are, they are a snapshot in time. It's how people feel right now. The polls are going to go up, the polls are going to go down. They're going to hear something that's going to stick in their head, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. I can't believe somebody would say that. I don't like that person anymore. 2 weeks later, they're going to say something completely opposite, and they're going to be like, wow, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Yeah, he's got my vote. It's going to go up and down. And again, it's a snapshot in time, and you have to take into consideration why Trump's numbers are maybe tanking a little bit right now. He just had the big thing about Obama starting ISIS, as well as the little scuffle with the Khan family members. So a lot of people didn't really like that, supposedly, but in 2 weeks it's going to change. There's going to be some new development somewhere, either on Hillary or on Trump, and honestly don't even believe any of the polls. The polls that you really need to look at are the ones more closer to the debate and actually towards the election.
Absolutely.
And then two more things on that. Back when Reagan was running, he was losing every poll horribly. They never thought he had a chance, and he won in landslides. And then didn't last election say that Romney was winning?
Yeah, I think it varied, but yeah, I think that.
So a lot of the polls had Romney winning, and people thought that it was going to be a sure thing, and it turned out differently. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how the election is going to turn out in favor of Trump.
Right. And so just to clarify, we've talked about, why Trump said Obama was the founder of ISIS in previous YouTube videos. We've talked about why Donald Trump supports homosexuals and his history with supporting homosexuals. We've talked about where are the Hillary Clinton supporters. And we're going to do this every morning just to kind of keep everybody thinking and on their toes. Never just assume that what the media is saying is correct. Research it. Understand it. Figure out why they're saying this and where they're saying this from. And that'll get you to a better standing. We're not trying to sway your vote, but we are trying to speak truth. And so that's what we're going to strive for every single day, and we appreciate you watching us.
One thing I recommend is if they put a quote on the screen or a video clip, Trump said this, Clinton said this. I recommend finding the actual speech, the actual rally, whatever, and listen to 2 minutes before it and 2 minutes after it, because when you take that one little snippet out of context, it can mean completely different from what the entire message means.
Exactly.
So, again, don't let the media fool you. If something sounds too good to be true or too bad to be true, dig a little bit deeper, do your own research. So,
right. And with that, I want everybody to tune into our Periscopes. We do live calls, and we do live broadcasting every single night at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. At A Politic Voice. We also have a Twitter, so reach out to us on Twitter, direct message us if you want. You could also email us at apoliticvoice@gmail.com. And
everything we have is A Politic Voice, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, Gmail, everything. So thank you everybody for watching. Give us your feedback, let us know what you think, let us know what else you want to talk about, and we'll see you on Periscope tonight and back on YouTube tomorrow morning.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.